Share your answer.
All right. The last time we met, the last time I had the floor, and well, in the past, I've been making presentations on prominent figures in the Civil War era. And I asked at that time that we ought to try to do something just a little bit different. And I asked that you think about issues that I might do some research on and present it to you in lieu of the process that we were doing before. And I got one recommendation, and that was the recommendation by Bob, who wanted to know more about the Union Navy. And that's what I did. I did a research on the Union Navy, and I'm going to present the information now. But right now, I'd like you to think to yourself about anything at all that comes into mind when we say the Union Navy. Is there any single word or any single incident, anything at all that might come into your mind when you think of the Union Navy? Like, for example, can you name one person who was involved prominently in the Union Navy?
Yeah,
My great-great-grandfather.
and my uncle.
Okay, what's his name?
Hiram Foster, everybody knows him. He was a coal heaver on the USS Hartford, Farragut's flagship. But he got out before the Battle of Mobile Bay.
He got out before the Battle of...
Mobile Bay.
Oh,
Our
okay.
3 coal heavers got the Medal of Honor.
Uh-huh,
He
very
was down on
good.
that.
Very good. Anybody else?
Yeah, my uncle. He
Yeah.
was on the Kearsarge that sunk what's the name, what was that name of that ship, Bill? Was it the Alabama?
Alabama or Virginia, I don't remember.
The Alabama was...
Yeah, it was sunk over in France.
Yes.
It was the last naval battle.
Yeah.
Well, my uncle was the admiral on that boat.
He was. Oh,
And then
boy.
my other uncle, he was on the Monitor. He fought against the Merrimack.
Oh,
His
terrific.
name was Dana Samuel Green,
Wow, terrific.
and he was the executive officer.
Uh-huh.
And he took over after Wharton got wounded and chased after them.
Terrific, great.
So I had 2 of them.
Uh-huh. Anybody else? Anything that comes into your mind. Maybe just a single word.
Yeah.
Ironclad.
Boring.
What?
Ironclad.
Ironclad, right, okay.
Boring blockade duty.
Foreign
Boring
blockade
duty.
duty. Oh, okay, all right. Very good.
Admiral Foote.
Admiral
Foote.
Fort?
Foote.
Foot.
Admiral Foote, okay.
The Hunley submarine that they had to fight against. The
I
Hunley.
didn't hear it.
The Hunley, that's a Confederate submarine.
Oh, yeah, okay. All right.
Damn the torpedoes, that's what it said.
Damn the full speed ahead, right?
Yeah, right.
That's what the guys on the Hunley said.
Yeah.
We're going down, boys.
Anything else?
Wasn't it Barry? Wasn't he the one that was in
Yeah.
charge of the Navy?
Yeah.
Any word, incident,
The Anaconda Plan, which is
a what?
the Anaconda Plan, which is the
Blockade.
blockade.
A counter plan to the blockade?
Anaconda.
Oh, Anaconda, okay.
That was
okay.
developed by Winfield Scott.
Mm-hmm, yep. All right.
Wasn't there also the capturing of a British advisor too, trying to go through the blockade? Or Confederates, I'm pretty sure.
Uh-huh. Okay. Very good. Jerry?
I got nothing.
No?
As a typical answer to my students, they took all my answers.
A typical teacher trick.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we're gonna learn a little bit more about the Navy. Okay? Many big transformational, technical, and institutional changes had to be made by the Union Navy, and it proceeded through the war. They are continually changing and continually making improvements. Sailing vessels were completely supplanted by ships propelled by steam. You would expect that because of the change, of the challenges. The vessels of wildly differing character were built from keel up in response to the special problems that they would encounter, and the wooden hulls were at first protected by armor plating. And soon they were replaced by iron or steel throughout. The guns were reduced in number, but increased in size and range. The reduction in number was partially compensated by mounting the guns on rotating turrets, or by pivoting a gun on a curved track so that they could be turned to fire in any direction. So the turrets that were quite popular then. At the start of the war, the United States Navy had 42 ships. Another 48 were laid up and listed as available for service. Most were sailing vessels, some were hopelessly outdated, and one served on Lake Erie and could not be moved to the ocean, the landlocked. By the end of the war, the total number increased to 671 vessels. Since the nature of the conflict that took place in the interior of the continent or in shallow harbors, the ocean-going vessels were inadequate. This forced the Navy to produce ships that could maneuver in the confined waters of the rivers and the harbors. The Navy had a total of 84,000 personnel. It suffered 6,233 total casualties. It started the war with 8,000 men. A key part of the recruiting efforts was the offer of higher pay than the volunteers for the Army. Unlike soldiers, few of them were farmers. The typical Union sailor was a hard, pragmatic man who bore little patience for patriotism, reform, or religion. Nevertheless, the Union Navy sailors and Marines were awarded 325 medals of honor for valor, with immigrants receiving 39% of the awards. For example, the sailors from Ireland, there were 50 that received these awards. The ones from England received 25, and the ones from Scotland, 13. About 10,000 or 17% of the Navy sailors were black. 7 of them were awarded the Medal of Honor. The tensions between black and whites was high and remained serious during the war. The first goal of the Navy was set by President Lincoln when he declared a blockade of the Confederate southern coast. The task was daunting. The coast measured over 2,500 miles, and the Union Navy numbered less than 40 usable ships. The Union also needed gunboats to support Army campaigns down the Mississippi River and in Northern Virginia. The southern states had very few shipyards, a small merchant marine, and no navy at all. The blockade was divided into 4 squadrons: the North and South Atlantic and the East and West Gulf. In 1862, the Mississippi River Squadron was created, but it was not involved in the blockade. The squadrons needed only ships. The squadrons needed not only ships, but also bases on the East Coast in which to operate. In 1861, the Union began a series of attacks on port cities like Hatteras, North Carolina, and Port Royal, South Carolina. Poorly defended, they fell to Union gunnery and were seized as bases for the North. Though never airtight, by late 1862, the blockade became a major impediment to the rebel trade. With a smaller fleet and fewer shipyards, the Confederate counted on making their ships as formidable as possible. They decided to challenge the Union Navy with the latest technology, which was ironclads. Though iron armor ships had appeared in Europe in 1850, Union warships were still built of wood. The first Confederate ironclad began its career as a Union cruiser, the Merrimac. It was captured by the Southerners when they seized Norfolk, Virginia Navy Yard. They ripped off nearly everything above the waterline of the ship, which they renamed the Virginia, and replaced it with a casement of heavy timber covered by 4 inches of steel plating. Though underpowered and crude, as yet there was no match for her in the Lincoln Wooden Navy. The Union quickly met this challenge with the ingenuity of inventor John Erickson. Most of the ironclad, the Monitor, was underwater. All that appeared above board was a flat main deck and a circular housing carrying 2 guns. This, quote, tin can on a raft, end quote, was the world's first rotating turret, and it was protected by 8 inches of iron. The Monitor met Virginia in March of 1862 at Hampton Roads, Virginia, and their 3-hour engagement, often fought at point-blank range, was the world's first battle of ironclad vessels. The engagement itself was a draw, but the very existence of Virginia deterred the Union Army operations in the area for some months. Afterwards, suddenly, the wooden naval vessel and most of the Union fleet was obsolete. Shipyards north and south began to turn out ironclads as quickly as possible. Early 1862 marked the beginning of the Union campaign to split the Confederacy apart along the Mississippi River. A fleet of gunboats was built to support General Grant's army as it moved from Illinois down the Mississippi River into the heart of the South. Most of these vessels were little more than flat-bottomed, steam-driven barges with heavy iron-plated timbered sides. Grant's army and the Brownwater Navy captured rebel strongholds such as Forts Henry and Donelson in Tennessee. At the same time, a squadron of the Gulf of Mexico, in the Gulf of Mexico, under David Farragut, boldly took on the defense of New Orleans. In 1862, Farragut's fleet fought past two strong forts and forced New Orleans to surrender. In June of 1865, after a series of hard-fought campaigns, Farragut, moving north, and Grant, moving south, met at Vicksburg and severed everything west of the river from the Confederacy. In April of 1865, the Union Navy turned with force on the southern Atlantic port cities and captured Charleston, South Carolina. In January of 1865, after two failed attempts, the largest Union fleet ever assembled attacked Fort Fisher, the key to Wilmington's defense, and the stronghold fell. It deprived Lee's army in Virginia of a major supply source and contributed directly to the end of the war. Now, my friends, is my report. And thank you.
Nice.
I would welcome any topic about the Civil War that you'd like to have more information on. I'll do some research, and if I have enough interesting things, I'll present it to you. So, off the top of your heads, is there anything that you'd like me to consider for research?
Yeah.
Yes.
How about the role of women in the Civil War?
The what?
The role of women in the
The
Civil War.
role of women. Oh, okay.